Welcome to the Marketing Behind Rapid Growth, the podcast where we explore the strategies, decisions, and growth engines behind some of the world's most successful technology companies. Today, we're talking about Behance. Picture a young analyst at Goldman Sachs, spreadsheets, trading floors, the rhythm of Wall Street, and underneath it, a nagging obsession with something that has nothing to do with finance, design. That was Scott Belsky in the mid-2000s. He had no design degree, no formal training in the field he couldn't stop thinking about. But he had something arguably more useful, a sharp outsider's diagnosis of a broken industry. The creative world, he realized, was one of the most disorganized, most undervalued engines of culture on the planet. Brilliant illustrators, architects, designers, their work was scattered across agency portfolios that stole the credit or personal websites that nobody visited. Talent everywhere. Organization nowhere. So Belsky imagined a fix, a kind of LinkedIn for creatives. He called it Behance, a nod to enhance, a name built around a promise. Take control of your career. But here's the twist in the story. The thing that actually built Behance wasn't the software. It was marketing. Not marketing in the traditional sense of ads and campaigns, but marketing as behavioral psychology, as service, as brute force empathy. This is the story of how a company solved one of the hardest problems in business, the cold start. Not by scaling faster, but by refusing to scale at all at exactly the right moment. Let's start with the moment that almost killed the idea before it began. Belsky and his co-founder, Matthias Correa, did something a lot of founders skip. They ran a focus group, just one. They gathered a room of creative professionals, poured some inexpensive wine, and pitched the big vision, a new social network for creatives. The response was a flat, unanimous no. Think about the room these people were already living in. MySpace, DeviantArt, LinkedIn, their own personal sites. Nobody wanted a fifth profile to update, a fifth inbox to check, a fifth place to be ignored. Now most founders would have walked out of that room and tried to convince people they were wrong. Belsky did the opposite. He let go of the solution he'd fallen in love with and asked a different question. Forget the network. What's actually broken for you right now? And the answers came pouring out. They never got credit for work they did inside agencies. Their personal sites were a pain to keep updated. Nothing they built online generated real leads. And their work got copied constantly without so much as a mention of their name. That one conversation reprogrammed the entire company. Behance wasn't a social network anymore. It was becoming an attribution engine, a lead generation machine for people whose labor kept getting erased. Belsky would later distill this into a principle that guided the rest of his career. Empathy beats passion. Founders fall in love with their imagined solution. The market doesn't care about your imagined solution. It cares about its own pain. So now Behance knew what to build, but knowing what to build is only half the battle. The other half, the harder half, was filling the thing with anything worth looking at. This is the cold start problem in its purest form. No visitors means no reason for great designers to bother uploading their work. No great work means no reason for anyone to visit. It's a wall every two-sided marketplace slams into. Behance's answer wasn't an ad campaign. It wasn't a referral program. It was something almost old-fashioned in its manual intensity. The team went out and found the creators they most admired, and they didn't pitch them software. They pitched them recognition. An interview, they said, for a new blog about creative productivity. Framed that way, as a feature, not a sales call, almost everyone said yes. Then came the second ask, and this is the part worth sitting with. After the interview, the team would say, "Since we're already featuring you, let us build you a beautiful portfolio on this new platform to run right alongside the piece." Almost nobody said no to that either, because there was no burden on the creator. Behance did the work. Behance carried the friction. That single tactic dissolved the entire marketplace dilemma. By the time Behance launched publicly, it wasn't an empty room waiting for someone to show up. It was a curated gallery already stocked with hundreds of world-class projects. Visitors landed in something that already felt alive, already felt credible. And here's the strategic insight underneath the tactic. Marketing wasn't promoting the product. Marketing was building the product's inventory. The line between the two had basically disappeared. Now, most companies telling this kind of story raised a big venture round early and threw money at growth. Behance didn't. For most of its life, it was bootstrapped. The one outside raise came late, shortly before the company was acquired. So how did they pay the bills in the meantime? With a physical product. A line of paper notebooks called the Action Method, built around a simple philosophy of bias toward action. It sold, it reinforced the brand, and it quietly funded the digital ambition sitting behind it. But bootstrapping wasn't the only discipline shaping the company. As the platform grew, so did the temptation to keep adding things. A task manager, a tip exchange, a work-in-progress section, community groups, all added because the team wasn't fully sure what would stick, so they kept building options. Belsky came to see this as a cost, not a benefit. He started using the metaphor of a bonsai tree. If you want the trunk to grow thick and strong, you have to clip away the pretty branches competing for the same energy. So Behance started cutting. Groups, gone. The tip exchange, gone. Some users complained loudly, but the data told a different story every single time. When a secondary feature disappeared, the core metrics went up. Projects published. Projects viewed. The strategy narrowed from a suite of tools down to one vital workflow: creative attribution and discovery, done as well as it could possibly be done. There's a broader lesson buried in that bonsai metaphor, and it applies well beyond design platforms. More features rarely mean more value to a user. They mean more surface area competing for the same attention that should be going toward the thing that actually matters. Now let's talk about what happened in the first 30 seconds of using Behance, because this is where Belsky's read on human psychology gets almost uncomfortably honest. His framing was blunt. In the first 30 seconds with any new product, every user is lazy, vain, and selfish. Lazy because they will not read your instructions. Vain because they want to look good to their peers immediately, not eventually. Selfish because they want maximum payoff for minimum effort. Behance built directly into that reality instead of fighting it. Uploading work was made to feel visually rewarding. Formatting was automated so there was no friction between finishing a project and showing it off. Likes and views surfaced immediately, creating a small, fast reward loop the moment someone posted. The underlying bet was simple, and it's one every product team should sit with. If the default experience doesn't make someone feel successful almost instantly, no long-term value proposition is going to be enough to keep them from leaving. As Behance matured, its marketing matured with it, moving from manual, one-to-one outreach towards something closer to institutional authority. In the early days, the marketing goal was almost embarrassingly simple: win Google. The name was close enough to enhance that early searches returned a deflating, "Did you mean enhance?" The team treated SEO like a genuine competitive game, chasing mentions and backlinks until the search engine finally recognized Behance as its own entity, not a typo. Once that battle was won, Behance moved into content at a bigger scale. It launched 99U, not a hub for creative inspiration, but a think tank focused on creative execution. Through annual conferences and best-selling books like Making Ideas Happen, Behance positioned itself as the authority on actually getting creative work done. That was a smart move for a reason that goes beyond branding. By teaching creatives how to manage money, structure their time, and lead teams, Behance stopped being just a tool people used. It became an advocate for their careers. And advocacy, it turns out, is a remarkably effective funnel. It pulls engaged, motivated professionals straight into the network. So what can operators actually take from all of this? First, empathy beats passion. Founders fall for the solution living in their heads. The market only cares about the problem living in its day. Behance's pivot from social network to attribution platform happened because the team was willing to listen to a room that told them their idea, as pitched, didn't work. Second, reduce friction to zero through service, not through incentives. You cannot expect busy, in-demand professionals to climb a learning curve for a platform with no proof yet. Behance didn't ask creators to do the work. Behance did the work for them. Third, prune the product to grow it. The instinct to keep adding features is almost always wrong. The bonsai principle, deliberately cutting secondary features, concentrates energy on the one metric that actually defines success. Fourth, design for the lazy, vain, and selfish user. Long-term value is worthless if you don't survive the first 30 seconds. Every new user needs a quick win and a small hit of social proof before they'll stick around long enough to discover anything deeper. In 2012, Adobe acquired Behance for roughly $150 million. It wasn't simply a talent acquisition, it fit directly into Adobe's own transformation. That same year, the launch of Creative Cloud, a pivot away from boxed software and toward a connected, community-driven services business. Behance's rise wasn't luck, and it wasn't timing. It was a team that understood something a lot of founders miss. A great product cannot survive in a vacuum. They used high-touch, unscalable marketing to physically build their first user base by hand. They pruned relentlessly to shape user behavior around one core action, and they championed the real, unglamorous struggles of the audience they were serving. The result wasn't just a piece of software, it was a creative meritocracy, one that changed how the world's artists get discovered, get hired, and get credited for the work that's theirs. This was the marketing behind rapid growth. See you in the next episode.